Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Women's Writers Collective interview with Charlene Mohammad and Marilyn Pepper Citizen and their revolutionary book, Yoga in the Black Community. So I'm Leila Stuart, and that's all you need to know about me. I'm just going to interview them. But what I'd like you to know about Marilyn and Charlene is that they are both powerhouse women. Charlene Mohammad is a yoga therapist, a wellness practitioner, and she has been practicing yoga for over 30 years. She holds a Master of Science degree in herbal medicine from Maryland University of Integrated Health, and she's a licensed dietitian as well. Charlene is a member of the Alzheimer's Research and Prevention Foundation, the Yoga Advisory Council, and is the secretary of the Black Yoga Teachers Alliance Board of Directors. Marilyn Pepper Citizen has a PhD in public policy. She's also a yoga therapist, a national board certified health and wellness coach, and assistant professor in the Masters of Science in Yoga Therapy program at Notre Dame University School of Integrative Health. She specializes in aging well and has taught yoga to various communities, including veterans and their families and caregivers. She is a brain longevity specialist and ambassador for the Alzheimer's Research and Prevention Foundation Yoga Advisory Council, as is Charlene. And she is president of the Black Yoga Teachers Alliance. So definitely powerhouse women. And we'd like to start off this interview with a meditation. So Marilyn.
Thank you, Leila, and thank you for that beautiful introduction from both of us. And so I'd like to just take just a few moments to give everybody an opportunity to settle in. So just perhaps maybe sitting back in your chairs or on the sofas or big comfy chairs wherever you are. Take a moment to notice where you are, connected, grounded, as we all are in this moment. And I'm going to share with you a short meditation that is offered in our book. So just noticing your breath, noticing what might arise. Experiencing and being aware of each breath. And in this moment, sharing a short meditation that is geared toward each of us experiencing the freedom that we all so dearly cherish. So may you be free. May you be safe and protected. May you be safe from dangers and harm. May you know your soul's refuge, that inner sanctuary untouched by circumstances. May you be well. May you have relief from any ailments and be as healthy and as strong as possible. May you bring attention and care to the health of your body, mind, heart, and soul. May you love and be loved. May love and compassion warm your heart and soothe your soul. May you see through the eyes of love, listen with the ears of love, and act from a place of love. May you be at peace. May you find your calm center within the storms of life, living with ease and grace. May you find that peace of quietude, stillness, and deep serenity within your soul. May you be happy. May you experience awe and beauty and celebrations and laughter. May you feel your joyful, soulful aliveness, and may your soul smile with inner contentment. May you be free. May you experience the emancipation of your mind, the opening of your heart, and the illumination of your soul. May you be free to express your truth and be your authentic self, free to pursue your purpose, share your gifts, and manifest your highest calling for your life, the lives of others, and the world. May peace and love wash over you, replenishing, refreshing, and nourishing your soul. May you be safe and protected. May you be well. May you love and be loved. May you be at peace. May you be happy. May you be free. We're just taking a few moments to rest in it, in love. Experiencing a few complete breaths. And as you're ready, we rejoin in this spiritually virtual connection that we all hold right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that was just a short meditation that was written by Dr. Shelley Harrell, who is a meditation teacher and creator of the Soulfulness Institute. And she just does wonderful work. So just wanted to share that with you.
And that meditation, which was so beautiful, was adapted specifically for the Black community. Isn't that correct?
Yes, it was written as part of her work, which the title denotes, the Soulfulness Center, and focus on the African community and the African diaspora.
Okay. So I know in the book you mentioned that that meditation was specifically adapted for the Black community. So let's dive into why it's necessary to do that. What is it about the history of the Black community in the US and other places that necessitates that reweaving or reconfiguration of practices, yogic practices for the Black community, and how? So that's the rest of our conversation, I guess. So what is it specifically about the history of the Black community that requires that sort of refining?
Over to you, Charlene.
Thank you, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. As African American or Black Indigenous folks in the diaspora, and when we talk about the diaspora, we're not only talking about the Americas, but we're also talking about Central and South America. We're talking about the Caribbean. It's where indigenous folks from the African continent were uh, then basically enslaved from, and so and brought over the Middle Passage, as we say, into deeper into the Western Hemisphere, and so that has been a very traumatic experience for us as African Americans, or as Blacks, I should say, and that that experience is such that there has been a loss of understanding of who we are as a people. We were basically robbed of our language, our culture, in many ways, our religion. And so, because of that loss of identity, we were given a new identity. And, it's very poignant as this time as there seems to be this idea of an erasure of the history. And even just recently, where the UN adopted slavery as a crime against humanity, and the thought that three countries, three nations, and the United States being one of them, who refused to vote for that because they felt that why should we be held accountable for what was done during a historical time? So that the impact of that on a race or on a whole society of people has been pretty devastating. And so when Marilyn and I are thinking about writing Yoga in the Black community, it was how could we write this in a way that could remind us as a people that we had this practice within our own indigenous culture, and we needed to speak it in a way, put it in a language that we would understand.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And to add to Charlene's comments, it is a reclaiming of something that was already part of us. And as Charlene mentioned, that was taken, erased, and replaced. And so the lived experience is much different. And as I think back about the words of that meditation, those words are meant for a people that have a shared experience. And so it's important to be able to acknowledge that.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you. And do you remember the point in your life where you thought this book needs to be written? Was there a turning point for you?
Um, Speaking for myself, I think that the need has always been there, always felt like from the moment I started my introduction into yoga. It was something's different. I'm not connecting with some of the things that are being said. So I would say that that's been there. The impetus for the book might have been my first conversation with Charlene. We met in a yoga space. It was at a training, I think, a yoga's lifestyle session at the Smithsonian, and we started talking, and it was for me almost immediate. Like, yes, that we need to do something, and it took us a while.
I think for myself, that when I'm teaching yoga teachers, well, when I as a yoga teacher and having indigenous folks, Black folks come to my class, and then as also in doing yoga teacher trainings, the conversation amongst Black students really quickened in me the need for us to be able to um, have a space that was much more inclusive for us as well. I mean, there's a whole lot of conversation around what does inclusivity mean, And yet, the common refrain I was hearing from yoga practitioners and yoga teachers, Black yoga practitioners and Black yoga teachers, was that they did not feel welcomed in certain spaces. And not that there was an effort not to welcome them, but their understanding to be able to relate to their own experience was what was missing from the conversation, as well as articulating that, in a way. So I think that that was sort of always in the back of my mind. And so when Marilyn and I went to that conference on complementary and alternative medicine, the 20th anniversary of the NIH's um, center there, and we're listening to this wonderful research about all of the ways that yoga could support specific health modalities that we know in our community is suffering, and yet we were missing from the conversation. We weren't in the yoga research as practitioners, as researchers, or as participants. And so at that point, it was like, what can we do about this?
Mhm. Mhm. And when you started out your yoga teacher training or your yoga practice, what did you wish that was there for you regarding being Black in a yoga community and that you've brought forth in the book?
That one point was a conversation that we hear many Black yoga teachers, practitioners, even Black yoga therapists mention is the lack of community, of being alone in the space. And that building of community was a huge impetus for what we produced in writing the book.
And I say, in addition to that, would be the aligning of yoga philosophy with our own indigenous practices themselves, so that we could break down some of the barriers and taboos around yoga, really misunderstandings and misinformation about what yoga is. And therefore, based on those misinformation and taboos, that would keep Black folk from practicing yoga.
Mhm.
So being able to sort of demystify some of that.
Mhm. And yes, and you say in the book that healing from race-based trauma is a path of restoring wholeness, and that path is actually a part of the indigenous historical experience. So could you say a little more about that?
Yes, well, I'll start, and then in Marilyn, you can, of course, chime in. So, what is pretty much foundational in most indigenous Black communities is a deep sense of belonging to the Creator, the divine, and that connection with the Creator, the divine, as well as the ancestors, is where our healing power lies. And so this constant reaching back and having those connections is what holds our healing power. And it very much is relatable to when we think about yoga philosophy, because the idea is, can we move outside of our own selves and go to the big self, connect to that divine self in order to find our healing? And so there are many practices like that you find pretty foundational within the Black community, and that's around movement. It is prayer. It is using the healing power of plants and food in general. Uh, and so those are some really basic foundational aspects within our community that move us towards healing, and very much in alignment with if we think about the different limbs of yoga and the different practices and principles that we have there.
Mhm.
Yeah. The art of healing has been part of the culture from, as far back as we can trace. And even in early communities, it was about people being able to tune in. So as Charlene mentioned, a very spiritual perspective on life, which is not new. I mean, it's already there. It's like, how do we tune into it and correlate that to yoga philosophy? So we notice like there's no dissection there, but more complementary.
Mhm. And when you look at the multidimensional Koshik model of yoga, then would you say that the physical Annamaya kosha is somewhat less important than some of the other koshas? It sounds like that might be what
Not
what you were.
necessarily. So I think it's no, I think it's sort of braided together. So if we think about if we were having whether we were in the traditional church, okay, a traditional Christian church experience of Black folks, or if we had those who were following more of the ancestral tribal connections, there's always movement.
Mm-hmm.
In the church now it's called praise dancing, right? But there's always music, there's always movement, music, singing, like chanting, praying, praise. So I don't think that any of the layers of the koshas
Mm-hmm.
are not emphasized. They might not call it that, yet I think that if you're observing, you can see it. What do you think, Marilyn?
Definitely. It is so natural that there's no need to separate
Mm-hmm.
movement from spirit, from mind, from breath. It is all one, all one.
Mm-hmm. I guess where I was coming from was thinking of the yoga poses. They're more restricted. There you do this, and my image as you're speaking is of this joy, just joyful, spontaneous movement. So I was in my mind thinking, wow, uh, that might make a different looking yoga class for one that is specifically in the Black community.
Yeah, it would be more vinyasa-ish,
Uh-huh, uh-huh. And more freedom, I would imagine.
much more
Much
flowing.
more freedom,
Mhm.
much more.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And as I think back about it, just the society that we live in here in America, and Blacks in America have a very special relationship to life that you just don't find anyplace else because of slavery here in this country. But for so long, our bodies didn't belong to us. I
mm-hmm,
mean, our bodies are our own, but they've been taken from us. And so um, the Anamaya kosha, the physical body, is always present,
mm-hmm,
always present, because like that's where a lot of the problems come from. It's just from we look different, so we must be different.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. So can you say something about uh, the some of the medical and health inequities that the Black community experiences as a result of this? And we haven't named it, but it's colonization. Can you say something about that? And you have covered that very extensively in the book, but maybe just an overview of some of that here for the listeners.
Um, my comment about the body, and we acknowledge that when there is dis-ease, there is disconnection in all parts of the body. And so as you think about a people who were violated in every possible way that you could violate someone, um, it is, we talk about epigenetics, we talk about generational trauma, ancestral trauma, and how it translates from generation to generation to generation to where we are today. And the fact that Black folks were used as subjects of experimentation and research. And so there is this dichotomy. There is a need for Black people to be part of research, but there's also a tremendous amount of distrust among the community based on what has happened historically. And so over time, of course, there is a lot of dis-ease in the community. In the book, we talk about cardiovascular health, diabetes, how COVID impacted the community, Alzheimer's. I mean, there's a whole section on it. And our community is not faring well in any of those areas because of what has happened historically. And so it is a combination of being aware of what is, but also aware that there are practices, there are things that we can do for ourselves. And it comes back to reclaiming our health. And throughout each one of those conditions or issues that we talk about, there is a direct research-based link to how yoga can be of support and helpful in those conditions.
Charlene?
I concur. I can't think of any more to articulate what Marilyn said other than, the general lifestyle practices of the American culture, which really has the entire culture, regardless of race or gender, regardless of that, fairly not well, and so on leveling on top of that, the social and economic disparities makes it such that the Black community suffers more from those particular lifestyle diseases that we see that are prevalent within the American culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it seems to me that all of those conditions that you mentioned, Marilyn, are stress-based conditions, and in the Black community, added on top of all of the ancestral and present day trauma, is a recipe for health disparities for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I imagine that's part of the reason why in your book you are so big on people taking an active role in their own healing process.
Because it is possible. And I think that, again, a part of just our westernized culture here, it's I want to say we're lazy, but we are into fix me, looking outside of ourselves for the fix, looking for that silver bullet to necessarily fix whatever ails us. When the yoga practice teaches us how to become much more intentional about how we are living our lives, as well as empowers us to find that intentionality in order to cultivate our own healing. And that is something that's innate within all of us. And so, what's so beautiful about the yoga philosophy, yoga language, is that it does coax us and coaches us back into ways that we can become much more autonomous about how we find our own healing. Um, and so we don't have to necessarily go outside of ourselves. And I'm not telling anyone not to go see your physician if you have an issue. Yet it should be a partnership and not one where you're putting your life in someone else's hands to necessarily fix you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there was a thought that just came about that. Yes, how you and you mentioned this. How do you actually inspire people who may be in that place of lethargy or laziness, as you called it, although laziness is often just an uninformed state? How do you inspire people within the framework of yoga in the Black community?
It's once we come together in community, there's an energetic quickening
Mm,
that naturally happens.
mm,
So that's one way. It's holding space for folks to come together, and it really doesn't take that much. Usually, when we come together, there's a common ground, there's a commonality energetically that naturally gets quickened. And then I would also say one of the best things that we have in yoga uh, is the ability to articulate the importance of the breath.
mm,
And anytime you can bring a person back to their breath and bring their awareness to that is to bring them back into themselves. I'll always remember a yoga class that I taught, and I was at the hospital at the time, and I had a student come in and who was just bouncing all over the place, and did not think that they could take a moment for Shavasana. So we went into Shavasana, and after class, she said to me, this is an African American woman, this is the first time I heard my heart beat. And
mhm,
this wasn't a woman my age. So so your whole life to just think that you've been up in your head so much that you just did not even come into your body. And
mhm,
just those few moments of being able to say, come to your breath could bring her back into her body. I taught a class last week for caregivers, and I had an African American woman say to me after we had a short meditation. She said, "I feel like my computer where I just closed all the tabs in my head." And I was like, "That's
Yeah,
it."
that's a great image. Yeah, yeah. Marilyn, do you have something to add?
Well, actually, I have had a client say the same thing. This setting was I was teaching a meditation class to a group of uh, social workers. Like I was at their office, and they brought all the social workers in uh, just for a day of in-house training, and part of it was meditation. And there was one of the people in the room that said afterwards, it's the first time I felt my heartbeat. And it was just amazing. She was amazed. Everybody else was amazed. But to Charlene's point, is bringing it back to what is already there, being in a place where we start to recognize it. And I think another important point, too, that we really focused on was helping people to realize that things were going on around them that is part of this practice that they didn't realize was part of the practice,
Mm. Like,
such as singing, breath, chanting. And, for a long time, we didn't have instruments. So everything was a cappella. And to just be able to sing, uh, to be able to be with another sister, another friend, and how healing that is, the healing power of a hug. So just small things that we were able to bring in. Remember, your grandma wanted you to eat your vegetables. There is a reason for that. You can still eat your vegetables. And so it's just pointing out that there are things that we can do that are part of our lives that we didn't realize that philosophically can translate to yoga philosophy, can translate to your daily lives.
mhm. Yeah, it's really about coming home to self, both physically, like this is my body, a sense of body agency and ownership, but also once we're here, then it's a little easier to dive into that big S self. I would think. And in your book, you talk about how in order for a teacher to be genuinely sharing yoga in the Black community, that they must embrace the three C's: character, courage, and compassion. So I'd love to hear a little more about that.
Well, the idea behind giving yoga teachers a internal task, so to speak, is to be much more intentional and aware about our presence in a group that might not reflect who we are. And so having being compassionate is really the ability to become empathic to me. And so being empathic means that you're giving up your own um, uh, ideas around the experience that another person is having, your ideas around it, and becoming more one with the experience that they're having.
Mhm.
Having the courage to say, I don't understand, and not coming across in that I don't understand as being opinionated in it, but genuinely coming from a point of being curious
Mhm.
about the things you don't understand itself. Um, and then just what was the third C? I forgot.
Character,
Character.
character.
Yeah. And so what is your integrity about who you are as a person? And I think that's important for all yoga teachers. I say we are not, I don't even like the word teacher. You know, we're facilitators of a practice. We're holding space. We're facilitating this practice. And so as a facilitator, you're open to whatever then presents itself. I always use this experience where I was teaching a yoga class and I had another yoga teacher attend the class. And even though I'm facilitating cues, she's having her own class. She's on her mat and she's having her own class. And it really just unjarred me. I was like, well, am I doing something wrong, you know? And I finally had to check myself. I'm like, she's having this is about the practice. I'm offering a practice. You don't have to do what I'm offering. You know, you can move your body the way you want to. So just getting out of my own ego and or getting out of our egos as yoga teachers, so to speak, and beginning to cultivate a character that is genuinely who you are and being that constant student of life so that you're open, you're being vulnerable, and yet, but you have a level of self-assurance in your own vulnerability. It's not going to crush you if you have somebody come to your class and they're doing their own practice.
And also it takes svadhyaya.
Yes.
Yes, a deep svadhyaya. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Marilyn, your thoughts or a story?
A story. Well, not necessarily a story, but a thought. And that is that um, we go through life. It's a journey of, you talk about deep svadhyaya. It's like learning who we are, reconnecting with who we are, discovering who we are. So if we're going through life having our own life discovery, there is no way we can know other people's life stories. So when you're working with someone, whether it's one-on-one, small group, or class, we don't know what's present in the room with us.
Mm.
We don't know who's present in the room with us. And so it's really important to Charlene's point, to be able to facilitate an opportunity for people to experience their practice, which means that a posture in one body doesn't have to look like the posture in another person's body, particularly when bodies are different. lived experiences are different. Thoughts, processes, everything is different. So it's just even being able to approach it from a facilitator's point of view of in itself being a discovery.
Mhm. Mhm. Great. Yeah. So, how does your book fit into the canon of yoga therapy book? So, who specifically did you write it for, and what sort of unexpected audiences have you found that were attracted to your book?
I think back to our proposal, the proposal that we provided when we wrote the book. And one of the questions we had to answer was, who is the audience that you're writing the book for? And we had a list, and I think, Charlene, correct me if I've missed this, but I think we've reached the communities that we anticipated that we would. And we're really, really grateful that we've been able to do that. Initially, to students of yoga, Black students of yoga, um, people who are teaching students, people who are outside the community so that they have a better understanding of the community. Like we wrote it for the world, didn't
Yes, indeed. And I think the greatest compliments that we have heard were that it has become a text for yoga teacher trainings,
Mm.
as well as for non-members of the Black community to say, thank you. I did not know and I have a better understanding and the level of confidence now of embracing Black yoga participants into their space. They're more confident or more relaxed around that. And
Mhm.
that is exactly what we were hoping would happen.
Mhm. It seemed to me reading the book that it would be very, very useful for any community that has been marginalized or diminished or um, yeah. So the Native American, the any immigrant community, the principles remain the same, don't they?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And each one of those cultures has a rich, rich background that the overriding culture has tried to erase. And so I think that in the book you raise such a good philosophy of embracing your culture
Yeah, yes,
because it has so much richness. Yeah.
yes.
we also mentioned early on is that the term people of global majority. If you look at the global majority, it is not the colonizers that are the global majority. And so it's having a mindset to just see people for who they are and appreciate who they are and being curious and just embracing difference. Difference in one capacity, but also equality at
Mhm.
the same time.
Yeah. 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 That colonization mentality is really wreaked havoc in the world, hasn't it?
Well,
So,
it's taught us how to appreciate who we are.
mhm, mhm. So what surprised you during the writing process? What did you learn about the subject matter that surprised you? What did you learn about yourself that surprised you?
So I think what surprised me the most was the fact that Marilyn and I could speak from one voice.
Mm,
Because we wrote segments separately and then would switch to have one another read what the other person had written. And yet it became one voice. And it was something that we had originally raised as a concern to our editor, who was like, don't worry about it, we can fix that. But there was very little fixing they had to do. So it could be that because she and I were in each other's head for 4 years. I don't know. But that I think is what was pleasantly surprising that it took very little editing amongst ourselves or disagreement. It was more so that this could be enhanced if we said this way or added a little bit more in this topic. But there was very little, if any, where there was disagreement with how we were writing and what we were including.
Mhm. Mhm.
I agree wholeheartedly. That was the biggest surprise is that yeah, I mean the voice was one throughout the whole book. I'd say other areas um, we're not surprised, we're not surprises, but rather uh, we just got justification for what we already knew. Like, here's another way you can say it. Or here's some research that supports, like, yeah, I already knew that, but here's the research that supports it. So that was good. But the biggest surprise was that we spoke as one voice. We were friends going in, we were friends throughout, we're friends on the other end. So I can't think of one disagreement.
Nope, nope.
Not one.
Nope. And I've heard folks who have said to me, how did you do that? Because I've tried to collaborate and it fell apart. Uh, yeah, so we were we were very blessed in that sense.
Mhm. Well, it's a testament to who you are, for sure. Yeah. So another question that I'm curious about is there something or a number of things that often get misrepresented in this subject of healing from race-based trauma in community
I would say that um,
or misunderstood,
I think
misrepresented, misunderstood?
so. I think what's misrepresented is that Black people are broken,
Mm-hmm.
you know, uh, and um, and we're if you were entrenched in the community, what prevails much that, and people don't like this word, but I'm going to say it because I don't have a better one, is resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
We are resilient people. And but based on any of the stereotypes and even the mass media, we appear to be a very broken people. And I think that that is a misrepresentation of who we are. And again, why the emphasis on going back to those innate traditions that we have and know can help to get rid of that misunderstanding because we I think it even is held somewhat in certain pockets of our own community that we've accepted that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember hearing a story about a, a, a community worker working with Black youth in inner city Black youth, and the one of his learning moments was one of the Black kids saying to him, "I am not my trauma."
Beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Anything to add, Marilyn?
Definitely not broken, not hopeless, always full of hope,
Mm.
hopeful. In the midst of the concerns, the diseases, we talk about what we haven't talked about today are the structural and systemic issues that are compounded on top of everything else. So even despite all of that, always hopeful. Um, Resilient is a good word, even though it's kind of overused sometimes. But even resiliency in a space where we realize, particularly with Black women, is that you can't bear everybody's burdens. And there has to be a point where you stop, rest, recharge. But hopeful, not broken.
Mhm. So do you want to go into some of those systemic
Uh,
aspects that you just
well,
mentioned?
we talk about social determinants of health. We talk about environment where people live, opportunities for education, uh, health wise, talked about research, uh, schools, communities, and policies that are specifically created to the detriment of a group of people.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's still things that we can do. I have heard a lot recently about the fact that yoga in itself is a practice of resistance, and yeah, linking into to all of that.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
And the fact that I just wanted to
No,
add
no.
one more
Yeah.
thing. I
No,
meant
you
to
go
say this
ahead. You go ahead.
earlier and I forgot. Is that you mentioned stress earlier. Um, these are inequities that people face every day, day after day after day. It doesn't matter whether you come from a rural area or a city, educated or uneducated, qualified, unqualified, it doesn't matter. Just from someone seeing you, people make uh, assumptions, and it's something that's constant. Like you cannot get away from it. So, yoga is especially important to that, to be able to we talk about peace, to be in the midst of disjointedness, horror, terror, but to still be able to find a center of calmness where you are much more than what you see before you. You still want to fight against whatever it is, but you can still find that peace. And so I think that really makes yoga a very powerful practice.
Definitely an act of resistance. Yeah. And now with the resurgence of all of what's happening now, more necessary than ever to have that active resistance on a moment to moment basis. Yeah. Now, one thing I wanted to touch on a little bit more deeply is the inherent religiosity or that ancestral yearning that you talk about in the book. How does that inform what you do, and how is that expressed in the practice?
Well, the Black community is pretty eclectic as far as their spiritual beliefs and practices are. There are some basic tenets that are foundational, and that is would be respect for our ancestors and elders. You can find that pretty much across most belief systems. Um, as well as, again, that seeking that divine, the connection to the divine, to the creator. So those are pretty much foundational in most of our practices. And so, however, in some of the more structural monotheistic practices, they get layered with certain taboos around them. So, where yoga, there's a misunderstanding about what is yoga, and that yoga is the Hindu religion in particular. That is how it is equated. And so what we strive to do is to show how that is not yoga. There are practices within Hinduism that take aspects of yoga as well as different Eastern religions. And so, but the overall philosophy of yoga, and particularly we're talking about Patanjali's 8 limbs, there are foundational um, practices and principles that can absolutely resonate within the Black community and our practices themselves. And so in there, we even strive to sort of align some of those practices so that folks could have a visual aid of what that would look like in, say, the yama and niyama versus looking at the principles of Kwanzaa, which are pretty universal for African Americans, Christianity, and then Islam, so that you could see how some of those principles overlap, and that in your practice, yoga would be a complement to that.
Hmm. Yeah, I was quite surprised to read the extraordinarily high percentage of the Black population that believes in God, much higher than the average population, I think. Marilyn, you want to add anything?
Um, no, I think Charlene covered that quite well. One other thing that we do talk about in the book is even some religions in our community that were vilified, but still have that same connection, that resonance.
Mhm. So what are some of the, I had never heard of Kwanzaa before. So maybe just say a little bit about that, about the precepts of Kwanzaa.
Kwanzaa began in the 1960s by Baba Malana Karenga, who is a African American activist in our community, and it was a way to support the community from moving away from the commercialized aspect of Christmas through New Year's. And so that was one of the tenets. So that's why it's during the week between Christmas and New Year's. But it was also a way of having the Black community become more unified around some foundational principles that he called the seven Nago Saba. So there was one particular principle that was practiced each day as a way to bring the community back together. So there was some yama and some niyama of introspection to be done, and some yama, some things to do within the community itself. And so it has gotten somewhat commercial, unfortunately, but the idea around it was how do we build community? And I can recall going into some Kwanzaa celebrations where we would come together as community, and various organizations within the community would host a particular day. And so then
Mm.
it would be a theme for them, and there would be some discussion around a gathering around that particular theme. So say one is Nia, which means purpose. So there would be a conversation around purpose, and then always a celebration of breaking of bread after each particular evening.
So that community
Yeah.
gathering
It is around
again.
community gathering. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
And focusing our mind back out of the commercialism of giving presents, which is not what Christmas, is supposed to be about. But unfortunately, everything becomes very commercialized. And so moving us away from that.
Mhm. All right. So finishing up, unless Marilyn, you have something more to add there. No? Okay. So my last question would be, what do you hope readers get most from this book?
Hmm.
Say one thing um, for the Black community is celebration of the community itself, and to see that here is a pathway, one pathway for reclaiming what we may have lost.
Mm.
Outside of the Black community, I would say appreciation for the richness of the community. And I think Charlene mentioned this earlier, is some of the misconceptions to be able to see what's shown perhaps in media, on television, and know that that is not all of it.
Mm.
So an appreciation more than anything.
Mhm.
And I hope folks get inspired to pick up their practice,
Mhm.
to pick up their own healing journey.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. From my reading of the book, the words that came to mind as I was reading it were number one, revolutionary, that you're doing this. I know there's other people who have written books, but this book seemed to me quite revolutionary to bring in all of the aspects that you did. And then second word, revelatory. For me as a non-Black person, my mind was blown. Absolutely, I have to say. So thank you for that. And thank you so much for this deep and rich conversation. Before we go, can you say how people can connect with you, and then maybe what's next for you?
Marilyn?
Charlene, I think you know where the link is.
Okay. So on my particular website, there is a page for yoga in the Black community, and the website is urbanherbalist.org. Both Marilyn and I are on social media, so you can find us on Instagram and Facebook as well as LinkedIn. And we'll make sure that in the show notes, or however they do this on YouTube, there'll be a link to get a complimentary chapter for the book, which includes the beautiful meditation that Marilyn read at the beginning.
Great. And what's next for you guys?
Well, we are teasing out some aspects of the book to expand on certain topics itself. And so we've been, what do we call that? In the rabbit hole, which is where we go. But this book is really a primer. So we're sipping a lot of good nuggets here. And so there are certain nuggets that we would like to have a deeper dive in. And so we're working on those now. So
All
stay
right.
tuned.
All right. And Marilyn, you want to say what your website is, maybe?
The Dimensions of Wellness.
Wow. All right. Well, and here we end this conversation. So thank you so much, Charlene and Marilyn, and thank you to all the listeners. And we'll see you in the next interview.
Thank you. Thank you, Leah. Thank you for your time too.
Mhm.